Hi there. It's Josie here, founder of Women Who Lead with Heart, and also Create More Confidence, a completely confident women's leadership group. Who is here with me live tonight? I'm coming on live at 5 for my weekly training. And tonight it is all about how to be more decisive, how to be more decisive in our lives. Do you have trouble being decisive, making a decision, calling it? If you're joining me live, give me a hashtag live, or if you're on the replay, a hashtag replay. I'd love to know who's out there. I've got 12 hot tips for you for how you might lean into becoming more decisive in your life, how you can find more time, more energy, more confidence, more clarity so that you can make decisions. Hey, I see a good friend here in the group. Nice to see you, Megan. Thank you for joining and letting me know that you are here. All right, so let's dive in. Now that we know that we're live at 5 and it's all here, I want to talk about the 4 reasons why you want to become more decisive and then 12 tips for how you can get there. Okay, so let's dive in. First of all, can I just say something that I thought was so funny? So this is a Facebook Live that I'm originally filming this on, and then I'm going to post it on my YouTube channel. And on Facebook, you can make an event, and you can invite all kinds of people to come. And some people say, yes, I want to come, and some people say, no, I can't make it. But quite a few people said maybe. And I thought that was just hilarious that there was this talk offered on how to be more decisive, and people were saying maybe. I'm just laughing that I just thought that was ironic. I'm sure it's because they had logistics and they weren't sure that they could make it, but it sounded a little bit like being indecisive. All right, so let's just dive in. Here are the 4 reasons why you want to be more decisive. Maybe you already answered this question for yourself. Maybe you already know so readily why you want to be more decisive. Number one, it saves time. If you are somebody who has difficulty making decisions, you will find yourself sort of in limbo, kind of in between yes and no and up and down and perseverating, repeating the same choice patterns over and over and prolonging the process of making a decision. It isn't it isn't being in action. It's not being in forward momentum. And that's the second reason why you want to be more decisive is so that you can live in action, that you can get on with the business of being your decisive self who is in action and moving forward. When you are not really sure and you're not really ready to make a decision, I sometimes have that image of the squirrel that's trying to cross the road, but then midway through isn't sure if it wants to go left or right or if it's going to cross the road all the way or go back or go forth or And girl, you know what happens to that squirrel is that sometimes it gets squished because life moves forward and that's what we want to be doing. We want to make a decision and have our back and know that we're going to go for it and we're going to stick with it and that we can handle being decisive and having the courage to make a call. Are we going across the street or are we staying on this side? Another reason why you want to be decisive is it helps expand your growth. If you joined one of my free workshops and Create More Confidence, I talk about life as a lab. Like, what if we just make it mean less that we could make a mistake or that we could choose something that later we wish we didn't choose? What if it's all just a great experiment? What if we're just trying new things and seeing what happens, and then from that place deciding again? We can expand our growth a little bit and give ourselves more space so that we're not sort of funneled down narrow into this really tight either or choice point that feels like it has us locked up and we don't know what to do. And the fourth reason why you want to be more decisive is it helps grow your confidence. I am all about women becoming more confident in their lives, more confident in their leadership. And if you keep telling yourself, I'm confused, or I don't know what to do, or I'm so overwhelmed, there's so many things I need to consider, you're feeding your brain this narrative that undermines your own capability. It's like you're telling yourself and you're listening to yourself say, I'm not sure of who I am. I'm not sure I'm capable of making a decision. I'm not sure I'll like my decision. I'm not sure I even know what I want. You want to grow your confidence. You want to up level your ability to make a decision with the best information that you can and stick with it. And that grows your confidence. Okay, so if I've sold you on why you want to be more decisive, let's get into the ways in which you can do so. I've got 12 tips for you. You ready? Number one, evaluate the elements that you need to have to make the decision. If you're having difficulty being decisive with a particular decision point, then look at the elements very objectively. Okay, why am I overwhelmed? Well, I'm not sure about the time. I'm not sure about the money. I'm not sure about my desire. I'm not sure about the choice. I'm not sure about the value. Those are the top 5 things that sort of roll through our heads when we're really feeling up against a decision. Does it have merit? Does it have value? Will it bring a good outcome? Those are the things that you're wrestling with. So just sit down and ask yourself, what has me most locked up? What am I most concerned about? Is it the value of this decision? Is it the time involved of this decision? Is it my desire for one thing versus another that's having it be difficult for me to make this decision? So decide what you need to be able to decide. That's step one. That's going to help you at least objectively come out of confusion and overwhelm and start to process what needs to happen for you to make your decision. Number 2, shorten the deliberation period. Stop taking so much time. Jeff Bezos, the founder, CEO, billionaire of Amazon, makes decisions with 70% of the information. He's a CEO that moves forward, that makes things happen, and isn't worried about making a mistake. Because if it turns out to be a mistake, you just make the next decision. The idea is here, you want to be CEO of your life. You want to be in action. You want to be realizing the only resource you cannot invent more of is time. So let's get on with it. Let's stop perseverating, stop waffling, stop prolonging, stop being in limbo. Decide so that you can move forward. And if you need to decide again, allow that. Give yourself the permission that you can continue to make decisions on top of a decision. It's not a do or die. Number 3, know your reasons. Know your reasons and like them. If you're able to know your reasons for making a decision, and like them, then you're going to be able to make decisions faster. You can say to yourself, it was a difficult decision because I had positives on both sides to consider, but either way, I knew that I was going to have some outcome that I could experience and decide again, and I felt good about making the decision for that reason. I felt good about trusting myself. I felt good about taking a risk. I felt good about my gut. So know what your reasons are and like them, and that'll help you move forward. Number 4, don't lie to yourself. Okay? Here are some lies that I think we tell ourselves. I don't like to make rash or hasty decisions. That sounds so responsible, doesn't it? It sounds so mature. Especially when it comes to money, I really like to make a good decision. Well, what does that mean? Well, I need to sleep on it. I need to take time. I need to, let it roll around to make sure that I feel good about it. Well, let me tell you, in some ways, that's a lie. Every decision that you make is made in an instant. You might just be taking a really long time to finally make that decision, but there is no such thing as a rash decision. It's a decision. Considering what you want to consider, and then moving forward. So I'd like to just call out a little bit. Are you making excuses for the discomfort of not having certainty? And can you be more in action to tell yourself, I'm going to think about what I need to think about. I'm going to decide what I need to have to decide. I'm going to make some reasons here for why I'm deciding, and I like them. And I'm not going to lie to myself and say, oh, I need to sleep on it. Because what you're really doing is you're either staying in indecision or you're flip-flopping, saying yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, before you make your final decision. And none of those are actually very powerful, confident places to be operating from. So My challenge to you might be, what if you didn't sleep on it? What if you decided now with as much information as you had, not telling yourself you're overwhelmed or confused, but merely assessing what it is that you want and making the best possible decision you can in that moment, even if there's fear. And that takes me to the next one. If you're choosing between two different things, ask yourself or pretend, what if both outcomes are great? What if neither one of them was wrong in the end? What if this and this could both end up being extremely positive? Those possibilities exist. Then what would you choose? Maybe you're fearful to choose something that you really want because you're worried that the outcome might not come to pass in the way that you hope. But if you trusted, if you took the leap, if you were in an open space of trusting that either option that is before you could be just as good as the other, see if that loosens things up for you a little bit and makes it less of a do or die, all or nothing choice point. I'd like to address the fear of failing in number 6. What if there is no failing? What if there is no wrong decision? What if you are either deciding or learning from a decision that you made? What if you're winning or learning, not losing? What if you just get to decide again? You might say, oh, that was a bad decision that I made. Well, let's not judge yourself. You made a decision. Congratulations. You can make another one. You can regret, you can think, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done that, but you don't actually know that if you went back to that moment in time and made a different decision, that it would play out in some different way. That's actually believing that you have more control or more certainty over all of the uncertain variables of life than you actually do. So trust that you make the best possible decision in a moment, and if you don't like it later, you decide again. What if there's no fear of failure? Number 7, let's talk about fear of consequences. I hear a lot of women saying, well, I'm just worried about what might happen if I were to do that. What if they think this about me? Or what if they say that about me? Or what if it comes across bad? Or what if I'm misinterpreted? Or what if there are consequences that I can't control when I decide? What if the consequences of my decision are those that I don't choose? This again is the mistake of thinking that you have control or certainty over how other people interpret anything, or even control or certainty over your own path. You don't know if someone in your life is going to get sick. You don't know if you're going to get sick. You don't know if the entire consequences and circumstances of your life could change tomorrow. It's just this false notion of security that that which is already here will likely still be here in the same way. But those of us who have had deep pain or grief or terrible surprises or tragic circumstances know that there's so much that's out of our control. So don't manufacture pain and worry over potential circumstances that might happen if you make a decision and allow those potential circumstances to hold you back. That's a trap. The what ifs are a trap. So listen to yourself if you're saying, well, I'd like to do this, but I'm afraid of what would happen if. Catch yourself and know that's a trap and realize what you really need in that moment is clarity on your values and authentic sense of what you're meant to be and do, what you really want. All right, let's move on. What if it's not a binary decision? What if you could choose both? I'm working with a client right now who's getting offered this really cool new job or a kind of a remake of her current job, and she's not really sure which one to choose, and it feels like this huge choice point. And you know what she ended up doing is she chose both. She went back to her boss and said, like, what if it's not an either or? What if we could create a new option? What if we take the pieces of what this elements make sense to be and what I'm anticipating would be fun about this and create a new path? I love that. What if you could be a little bit more creative about your choice point? And what if there's a middle path, not a yes or no, a left or a right? What if there was a way to actually split the difference? And could you choose that and keep moving forward? What if your decision is something that feels very much like it's based on somebody else's outcome? For those of us in leadership, if you're thinking about having to fire somebody or hire somebody or cut a program or quit a certain course or make a big change in something that is the status quo, and you're feeling the weight of the impact that might have on others besides you. When you're struggling because you feel like those circumstances have great weight, one way to think about it is, if you were to make the decision that was made before that brought those circumstances here to be, would you make it again now? Would you hire that person again now that you're thinking you need to fire? No, you wouldn't. Because it's, you know that if you had a rehire decision in front of you for somebody that you know is a low performer and that you think should leave your organization, then you have your answer there. You know the right decision. It's just hard for you because you're accepting the consequences and the impact it's going to have on someone else. But you don't want to let a past decision inform your current decision if it's not the right one now. It might have been right then. A choice was made back then. Something exists now because of that choice, but just because it's here now doesn't mean you need to keep choosing it to be here. Does that make sense? All right, I might have lost track here, but I think we're on 10. Option number 10, or tip number 10 for how to be more decisive in your life. Get some perspective. If you're really tied up in knots about a decision that you need to make, ask yourself, will I remember this decision with this type of intensity in 10 days? Maybe. In 10 months? Maybe not. In 10 years? Probably certainly not. And if it is a decision that has that much weight, can I redecide as I get more information and as things change? Yes. So get the 10-10-10 perspective. Is this really going to matter in a big picture way 10 years from now? Which brings me to the next tip, which is ask your future self from 10 years from now what she would choose you to do. Ask your future self, your wise self, your best self, your self that is more evolved, more into the future of her own becoming. Be her now. What would she have you do now? What would she inform you to do? That's taking the long view. And then my last tip for you is, what's the worst case scenario of making this decision versus the best case scenario of making the decision that's before you? In some ways, the worst case is not risking the best case. Meaning, if you're afraid that the worst thing could happen, and so you don't choose to risk or take a dare or to stride out or to go for it, then you might be missing out on the possibility of extremely beneficial, positive possibilities to be the outcome because of fear. So make sure you're really evaluating that the best case scenario could happen with just as much possibility as the worst case, and consider that as you decide. I'm going to leave you with this, a quote from the sage and palliative nurse named Bronnie Ware, an Australian woman who has spent a lifetime helping people with terminal illness pass from this life. And she's written a really famous book and a series of essays about the 5 greatest regrets of the dying. She has wisdom to share with us from the end point of life, from hundreds of people that she's had the honor to usher through to the next phase as they leave their bodies and leave this world. And the number one regret of the dying is, I wish I had the courage to live life true to myself, not the life that others expected of me. So when we think about the long view, when we think about who we are here to be, when we think about being our authentic selves, being true to ourselves, and living into our own destiny, sometimes there's fear, there's worry, there's anxiety, there's overwhelm. But keep in mind that your job is to live your life true to yourself, not the life that others expect of you. All right, ladies, if some of this resonates with you and you feel like, I want that, but I need a little bit more of the how, then we should have a conversation. You might feel encouraged but fearful, hopeful but uncertain how you can move into that clear space of knowing what you want, of knowing your values, of knowing who you are authentically, of building that confidence to make a decision and stand by it, to stand up straight and be comfortable in your own skin and make a clear decision and keep deciding and keep moving forward regardless of what other people think or say, then we should have a conversation about my Confident Leader program, because that is what we do. Job one is we find out who you really are and what you really are meant to do, what makes you tick, so that you can know yourself, trust yourself, embrace yourself, and manage your own emotion around dealing with consequences that are nerve-wracking, so that you can stand in your life from a calm, centered, self-aware, self-appreciating place, who can decide, who can move forward, who can feel invigorated and proud and secure of who she is. That is what my Confident Leader program is all about. If you're interested, I'm going to drop a link in the comments below for how you can contact me so we can discuss it. It is on, girls. This is something you can do. You can become more decisive in your life. You can find that easy, calm, confident way. You can find inner peace and a sense of knowing and trusting who you are so that you can confidently decide. And that's what I've got for you tonight. Go well.